Welcome to another CATIA V5 video. We're going to take a look at how we can work with IGS 3D measurements. So the case study assembly is for a pedal support, and the IGS was generated using Power Inspect as a software and a Cimcore CMM measuring arm. And the output will be this. So we have multiple references over here. So we have that circle defined over here. So there will be 3 of those on the bottom, and there are also some surfaces over here. If you take a look at the IGS file, we're gonna see a lot of circles, planes over here. So mainly this is the structure of that file. Now let's take a look at some additional elements. So basically, what is IGS? IGS, we see that is an extension for initial graphic exchange, and this can store wireframe surfaces, solids, and so on. So the main idea with an IGS file is that is used to be transferred to a wide variety of CAD solutions, and will remain, let's say, within the same dimensions, constraint, and so on. So it's quite similar to step file. If you take a look at the measurements, the file will be quite small. As we can see, in this case, only 65 kilobytes. If within CATIA, I will just minimize this and I will drag and drop the IGS, we're gonna see that CATIA will load it like this. So this is by default. All the surfaces will be in black. So that is quite a pain. We're gonna take a look at how we can change that. Also, depending on the reference, so the case study was measured using a Romer Stinger portable. So this is the model, the Cimcore. And the software solution was Autodesk Power Inspect. And some of the first, let's say, changes that I usually do is to select the surfaces. So as we see over here, we have a surface that defines a plane, and I usually prefer to change the color. With the color change, I can now better see the sketches. As you can see over here, we have a circle that will be defined over there. So again, one of the first changes is to select those surfaces and just swap the color for those. We still have a small reference over here. Other than that, if you're gonna take a look at the axis, we're gonna see that the axis will be positioned over here. Now, when working with IGS measurements, it is very important to have them aligned, because currently, if I will just go within a top view, this will be considered a top view based on the position of that CMM reference. So let's see how we can address that. I will create an assembly and I will add the measurements over there. So I will go to File, New, an assembly as a product. So I created this product. Within the following product, I will drag and drop the measurements. So you can just select them over here, drag and drop them within the product. And I will also create a reference. So I create a new part. I don't want to define an origin for that. And within the new part, I will, so currently I'm in generative shape design. I will just jump to part design and I will create a rectangle. We see that in this case, again, we have the reference position over there for this part, where we already have the reference from the Power Inspect. We could go over here and delete this and create a new reference for our part. But let's see, it is better to create a product, create the reference over there, and afterwards import that Power Inspect. So let's take a look at that workflow. So I will just create a new part. Over here on the X and Y, I will create a new sketch. I will just add some dimension, so 400 by 400 for the bottom plate. Afterwards, I will extrude this for 10. And now we see that we have that reference position over there on this part. If I will go to the top plane, we are going to be positioned like this. And now I will create a new product. And within that product, I will add the two components. So this will be product 2. Within product 2, I want to add the previously created part, which is part 19 in this case. And I also want to add the measurements over there. So we have the measurements IGS. I will minimize this and I will drag and drop those over here as well. And we're gonna see the reference will be positioned over there, the power inspect. And this will be the reference of that part. And now, since we are within assembly, I can make the plate to be a fixed component. We see over here within the constraints. And I know that this bottom section should be offset at 20 millimeters from our part. And I will go with coincidence constraint, or I can go directly with an offset. So offset constraint. I want that surface to be aligned to this one at a distance of 20 millimeters. We're gonna see that it's still waiting for an update. I will do that update. And afterwards, I'm gonna align the measurements. So to do that, I will go within the product. I can select the measurements and I can use the move tool, which will be located over here. So if I will jump within the top view, you're gonna see those will be the measurements, and I have the possibility to drag them along. I will use this drag along any axis. In this case, I will just go with the X and Y. And we're gonna see how those will be positioned. So we see the current orientation, that offset will be upside down. So I will go with -20. Over here, I will just add a value, or I can have it flipped. So if I will go with opposite, have that updated, now it will be properly positioned. So always keep in mind the axis over here on the compass. We can also enable it over here with use local axis. But we see that, okay, so the orientation is still not properly defined, because I would like those parts to be upwards. So I can either add over there, or I can click on that arrow to position them on the top. Okay, so we see that with that arrow, we still haven't flipped those because we have two arrows. Let's see, one up and one down. This again isn't properly aligned. So let's just have that inverted. Okay, I will just go with a -20 in this case. Okay, and now we are positioned above the initial part with those measurements. So all this alignment can be quite tricky, and it's very important to do it before you're gonna start to work on your part. Otherwise, it will be a lot more complicated. Now, since we are within assembly, we can start and constrain this to our case study. But let me just show you how I constrain them over here. So I will go back over here, and we see those parts. If I will go and swap the visible space over here, we're gonna have all those surface created. So we see all those measured surface along with the circles. That will be important within the final assembly. So I hope that you find this video useful, because I know that a lot of people struggle with adding these. this kind of file, especially since the axes are not that well defined. If you want to change, for example, the axis of a part, you can easily do that. For example, I will go over here within the part. I will double click to enable it. And I will see that this will be the default absolute axis. If I'm gonna select it, press delete, it will no longer appear over there. And we have the possibility to insert another one. So from insert axis system, we're gonna see that by default it will swap back then within the same position, because that is the default 0, 0, 0 location, and with the z-axis going following the compass. But feel free to select any point. For example, I will position it over here. Afterwards, we're gonna see the axis, the x and y. If you want to, you can swap those. So maybe I want that to be the x and that to be the y. And you can also reverse them over here. So this will go with the z on the different orientation. Or you can reverse it. Afterwards, you're gonna click OK, and you're gonna have that axis. If you add multiple axes within the same part, for example, over here I will clear this, so no select, and I will just select that point. So we see that I'm gonna reverse this. And now always the active system will have that orange. So you can go over here, and now we see that we can deactivate it, or we can set it as current. Once I set it as current, this will now be the local axis. And over here on the compass, if I will enable use local axis, now when I will go, for example, to the top view, it will take the other axis. If I will go for the bottom view, or for example for the front, this should be the front based on that. But if I will enable this, set as current, use local axis, and now if I will go again to the front view, we're gonna see that for this axis, the front view will be 180 degrees rotated from that one. Okay, so I hope that you find this kind of content useful. I will position a similar video over here on the left. I will add the CATIA V5 tips and tricks to the top, and I will also add a subscribe button. So let me know in the comment section if you want more additional videos like this, since I haven't found any on YouTube yet. So that's it. Thanks for watching.